Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I've got a special guest with me today. His name is Clinton Young. Welcome.
Thank you, Pauline. It's so awesome to be here. I love talking with people from all around the world. Great to meet you.
Awesome. And now I know that you mentioned all across the world, and I know that we've just been speaking a little bit, and you're from California. But I would love for you to introduce yourself and what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an international keynote speaker and a coach for aspiring world-class speakers. The people I generally work with are those purpose-driven entrepreneurs that have that desire not only to make money, right, but also make an impact, make a difference, whether it's their product or service or their message. And really the people that I generally work with, not only do they have that, but they have this sort of calling in them, this calling to leave a legacy with their message. And sometimes they don't even know what the heck their message is. And they don't know why they keep getting this calling to speak. But those are typically the people that I get the call from when they have that calling to want to speak. And yeah, I'm in San Diego, California. And I'm also a self-proclaimed pickleball aficionado. We just talked a little bit about that new amazing sport, and a full-time RV liver, I guess. Is that really, it's not really the way to say that, but I live in an RV now, traveling all across the US with my wife.
Oh my goodness, that is so cool. We're going to go and learn a little bit about the RV life and pickleball in a second. Okay. But before we do, we want to get into the meat of this conversation.
Yes.
So tell us in terms of, I mean, it's an incredible, story or journey that you've had so far in terms of what you've just spoken about. And I'm really curious about, I mean, it must have taken something to get to this place, to be able to impact other people and have, be able to spread that message through speaking. So tell us, where did your journey all start with this inspiration?
Wow. Okay. So 2008, we all remember a challenging time, kind of similar to our challenging times that we're experiencing right now, but a little bit different at the same time. And a lot of us had, with the financial collapse of 2008, which really devastated the United States, I'm sure it devastated Australia and many other countries as well. I found myself a new entrepreneur and having a lot of success as a new entrepreneur. I had a sales and marketing business. And then all of a sudden, 2008 happens. And I literally, Pauline, within a matter of months, I lose my property, I lose my credit score, and I lose my business. It completely crumbles. And this is 6 months after I get married. Wow. Like, welcome to the team, honey. It was a rough time. And I find myself at the microphone at this seminar. And I am certainly not leading this seminar by any stretch. I was not a professional keynote speaker at that time, although I had done some speaking. I definitely was not leading the seminar. I was in that seminar and I was lost. I was confused. I was scared and I was shattered. Like, my confidence was absolutely shattered.
What called you to go to this seminar?
I've always been somebody who is driven to grow through whatever challenges I'm experiencing. In fact, one of my mentors, Justin, used to say to me all the time, he said, when your life outwardly seems to be crumbling, go inward and focus on your inward growth. So I find myself, picture this, I'm at this seminar, there's like 300 people all around me. I'm at the microphone and all of a sudden I'm sharing. The seminar leader looks right at me and he says, Clinton, you are dead inside. And I'm just like, oh, it was like a stake to my heart, right? And at that moment, I realized that I actually was dead inside. Like, before the show, we were talking about my keynote speech. It's called Reigniting the Human Spirit. Reigniting. It's not called igniting. It's called reigniting the human spirit. And that comes from that moment when I realized, if you think about like a gas stove, there's a pilot light underneath that gas stove that's always on. Even when your flame is not on the top, it's always on underneath. And in that moment, I realized that my pilot light had almost gone out. Like, it almost was out. And I needed to reignite my own human spirit. And ultimately over the, corresponding 7 years after that or so, my message became clear to me, and my vision and my purpose in life really was revealed to me, that it's not only to reignite my own human spirit, but it's to reignite the human spirit and be a contributor to reigniting the human spirit. Because I know there's so many other people that have experienced challenges like failure, and the subsequent fear and doubt that comes from that can be crippling, be really challenging.
Yeah, and I've experienced, that fear, that sensation, or whatever you might call it, feeling that dead inside, which some people may relate to on different levels. When you talk about reignite, what were the factors that helped you reignite on those during those 7 years?
That's a great question. So what are the factors that help me reignite? What I can say is there are these habits. I call them black sheep habits, because a lot of people aren't willing to do them, especially not knowingly or in public. Things like meditation, right? Things that allow us to quiet our mind. And I want to give kind of a 4-step process right now for your listeners. Something that really helped me, that I think will help anyone out there who may have experienced a challenge in their life. Maybe you're going through a challenge right now. Maybe you're going through a job transition. Maybe you're becoming an entrepreneur. And sometimes it's a forced situation, especially with, the everything going around or on in the world all around us. A lot of us are becoming entrepreneurs. And there can be some challenges in our mental states in this process. It'd be really, really challenging. So one of the things that I found to be very, very beneficial is meditation. Obviously, most people know what that is. It's becoming very mainstream, but just so we're on the same page, really simple meditation. If you close your eyes, you focus on your breathing, you let thoughts enter and you just release them and just continue to focus on your breath. That's a really, really simple way of meditating. There's a lot of different styles, but that's a really simple one. So what I found that did for me is it really quieted all of the craziness that was going on in my brain, all the thoughts, all of the fears, all of the worries, all of the, I don't really know what I want to do next, kind of started to quiet down. And then I'd follow that up. So that would be step one. I'd follow that up with another one of the black sheep habits that I call black sheep habits, and that is contemplation. Contemplation. Now, it's very similar to meditation, but contemplation you can do when you're moving. So it's almost like a moving meditation where you take here's a great example. You take a solo walk in nature, right? Go out into the beauty of nature by yourself, take a walk, maybe take your shoes off. I'm not trying to sound all hippy dippy here, but there is an ionic exchange that goes on between you and the ground when you're walking on the ground with your shoes off. So do that, and just, you can actually think, unlike meditation, but don't get fixated on too much, but just contemplate and just be present. It's like really mindfulness. It's a practice of mindfulness, but you're moving. And I find that walks in nature are a great way to do that. And what you'll find when you do that is, because you've quieted your brain, you quieted your mind, it's almost like when you meditated, you cultivated the earth, you cultivated your garden. And then as you go out and you contemplate, you take walks in nature, you'll notice little things start to sprout up, little ideas, little insights, right? Start to sprout up. And you want to remember those when you get home, because the third step, I am so sorry about that. The third step, maybe you can edit that out. That was my alarm. The third step comes into play. And that third step is to journal. Right? So we've got meditation, we've got contemplation, and then we have coming home and journaling. And this sounds maybe cheesy to some people, right? Like, oh, I don't want to journal, especially maybe some of the men out there. I don't want to journal. Maybe women too. I don't want to be sexist here, but I used to not journal. And then I started and I realized, oh my goodness, your brain is like, thoughts are so slippery. Thoughts are so dang slippery. And if you don't get them down, you will lose them. But when you start journaling, you're going to start to notice patterns. You're going to start to notice things being revealed to you that are insights that you can then sort of put together like a puzzle, or especially around things maybe that are inspiring you or your purpose or things that you want to do in your life. So when you meditate, contemplate, and then document through journaling, you're going to start to see some patterns. If you keep doing this process, once you start to discover what it is now that you want in your life, I'm going to go to step 4, which step 4 is something that you do after you know what it is that you want. You don't have to be 100% absolutely clear about what you want yet, but you have to have an idea of how you want it to make you feel and what kind of result you want. You don't need to know the how and all the details of how you get there. In fact, focusing on that will only, I feel, stunt your momentum. But just focus on how do you want to feel when you get to that final place. Like if you want to become an entrepreneur and you want to have time flexibility, because it's really not time freedom when you become an entrepreneur, it's time flexibility, right? And you want to have more income coming in where you have the power of choice to do things that you want. You don't have to worry about how you're going to get there. Don't focus on that. Instead, focus on how is that going to make you feel when you actually get to that space. How are you going to feel? Literally, like close your eyes, almost like a meditation, but you're going to do step number 4, which is visualization, right? We're going to visualize how we want to feel once we get whatever it is that we're going to get, or once we become whoever we want to become. Again, you don't need to worry about the how, just focus on how you want to feel. And that is, in my opinion, the granddaddy or grandmommy of them all. Some of the top fighter pilots, top CEOs, top entrepreneurs on the planet, top artists and athletes is the word I was thinking of, the Olympians. They all use visualization. In fact, I'll say this last thing and I'll bring it back to you. Many people know who Michael Phelps is. He's the most decorated Olympian of all time. He's a US swimmer from the US. And he literally would work out before the Olympics 7 days a week for 8 hours a day. 7 days a week, 8 hours a day, literally 365, the whole year. And he said that even with all of the amount of time that he worked out, he said in all his 23 gold medals, I think he has 28 total medals and 23 gold, I believe. He says out of all that he did, he said visualization was his secret weapon. Even beyond all of that working out, he said visualization was his secret weapon. And one last quick story on that. He literally had one of his races, I think it was in Beijing Olympics, where he was doing the butterfly. And about 1/8 of the way through that race, his goggles filled up with chlorinated water. He could not see a dang thing in front of him. And he raced 7/8 of that race blind.
Crazy.
And he won gold and set a world record.
That's amazing.
And he said it's only because he'd already raced that race thousands and thousands and thousands of times in his brain, in his mind. And he won every single time when he visualized. So
Very
powerful black sheep habits. That's what helped me get out.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I mean, the black sheep habits, that's a very interesting name, first of all. But the 4-step process, it's very coherent in terms of very much getting in touch with yourself and, your mind and your emotions and really downloading what are the things so that you can self-analyze. So I love that. I am, and I'm very understanding of firstly having the feelings as well in terms of the visualization process. I'm wondering for you personally, because this is something I think that in the past, I didn't really understand in terms of, I was chasing the achievements and all of these things. And every time you get there, it feels the same. But this is a very intentional way where you've, already got that sensation. So I guess it's very different when you've achieved the goals. For you personally, what were the feelings that you had to have in place for you to become, achieve your goals or your reignition?
So I had to get inspired, right? I had to find something that really lit me up, that got me excited. There's this concept called flow. And just so we're on the same page here, what I mean by flow is, and there's actually a personality assessment that is amazing. Flowprofiles.com, I think it is. It tells you a little bit about it. It's an amazing profile. I've taken a lot of the different personality assessments. It's one of the pieces of my background. I have a huge background in psychology and neurolinguistic programming and personality and culture. That's kind of some of the areas of my expertise. But this is a profile that I found to be better than all of them, because not only does it show you what are you really great at, Pauline, but it combines that with what you love and what actually gives you joy and what gives you life. So you're in the flow when time flies by, right? If you think about doing something that you really love, that you're really good at, time flies by, right? Mm-hmm. And also you are fed energy in the process, right? You could do it all day. It gives you energy. You know how sometimes you do things and you can do anything. Anyone can do anything. And you can even become good at some things that even you don't like. But if it doesn't give you joy, over time, you will burn out. Over time, it will deplete you of energy. Whereas when you find things that are in your flow, you can do them all day long because it gives you life, it gives you energy. And the best thing about it is when you do that, you're actually adding the most value, because if you think about it, you're in your like highest and best use. It's almost like you're a car that runs on the very most efficient fuel possible, right? Versus being in a car with dirty fuel. That's kind of what it's like being out of flow. When you're in flow, you are just clicking at the highest level. So hopefully everybody that hears that is like, oh my goodness, I want to find my flow. Like, be in your flow, because that's where it's fun. That's where you're most lit up. That's where you're most excited. So when you experience challenges, though, you're generally not in the flow. You experienced a failure or a challenge, or maybe you don't have the awareness yet, which I didn't have the awareness quite yet of what it looked like to be in the flow. So what did I do? And what were the feelings that I focused on? Well, I focused on, what do I need to do to be in the flow? What do I need to do? Who do I need to become to make me feel good? Even if I don't have my business situation figured out, or I don't know how I'm going to make money for next month's mortgage, right? Even if I don't have that figured out, put myself, and I challenge everyone listening to put yourself in situations where you feel in the flow, because what's going to happen is that's going to raise your vibration. Now, I know I'm starting to talk about different things in the brain world, the psychological world. Just a little bit of background. I have a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in organizational psychology, and I've been geeking out on neuroscience and the human condition for like the last 15 or so years. So I'm not the foremost expert in the world, but I know more than the average person. And I usually start to weave in different concepts. So I just like to share that, so people are like, well, who's this guy? And I do know a little bit about what I'm talking about when it comes to the brain.
No, Clinton, go for it, because we're very
Cool.
interested in all the neuroscience side of things. And I think that can really help with some insights as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what did I do, and what can everybody out there listening do? If you're in a place where you're like, you don't maybe know what you want, and maybe this is a good opportunity for me to share where I find most people they're in like these three primary places in life. Okay. If you're out there wondering, all right, what do I do to live my journey to fulfillment? How do I become fulfilled in my life? You're probably in one of these three areas. And I know this because from speaking all around the world as an international keynote speaker, again, I deliver my speech, Reigniting the Human Spirit. I come across a lot of people, and a lot of people come up to me at the end, and I get to talk to them and find out where they're at. And you're typically in one of these three places. Every one of these places believes that anything's possible. Let's just say that is an overall assessment of everybody. Now, there are people out there in the world that don't fit that category, that don't believe anything's possible. I'm not talking about those people. All your listeners here, I have a feeling, are very positive minded. And even if they don't have it figured out, even if they're in a challenging place right now in their life, they still believe that anything's possible. So I'm going to make that assumption.
Okay.
Now, giving that assumption, you're probably in one of these three places. You believe anything's possible, but you don't actually know what you want. Like, you don't actually know what will bring you joy. And that might sound crazy to some people listening, especially if you've got it kind of figured out a little bit, but a lot of people don't know what they want. And I've been in that place. Like, I knew that I was bound for greatness. I knew that I was bound for something much greater than where I was at in my life. And I knew I wasn't there right then. And I didn't even know what it was that was going to make me happy. Right. So that a lot of people are in that place. Some people are in a second place where they believe anything's possible and they know what they want, but they just don't know how to get it. Right. They just don't know how. They don't know the how to get it. So a lot of times I would direct them to get a coach, right? Find a mentor, surround yourself with other people that are on that same journey. People probably that listen to your podcast, right? Or get around Pauline, people that are up to something, and specifically up to something in the area of your interest. Surround yourself with all these people that are on the same journey, that are 5, 10, 15, 500 steps ahead of you, right? And create what I like to call a structure for you to fulfill on your goals, a structure for fulfillment. Right. That includes your network, up-level your network, right? That's a huge thing to do. And of course, supplement that with coaches and mentors, because guess what? You don't have to recreate the wheel, right? You want to do something called modeling of those people that have the kind of life that you want to have, that are being the kind of person you want to become, that are making the kind of impact you want to make and the income that you want to make. You just want to model them. And another word for that is copy them. Copy them. In school, they call it cheating. In the real world, they call it being smart. Now, I don't mean go out and just, oh, that person has success and has a fancy car, so I'm going to do exactly what they do. No, you have to use your head, right? And look for people that they have the kind of lifestyle you want, and what they are doing fits your flow. Don't just go do something because it makes you money. Find something that actually fits your flow. We'll come back to that in a sec. But then once you find that alignment and there's congruency, then yes, model those people. Go where they go. Read the books that they're reading. Try to do the same kind of path that got them the success that they want. And to dumb it down a little bit more, just for myself, really, to be able to explain this even better, if you want to be a triathlete, who do you think you should model? Triathletes, right? Yeah. People that are actually being successful triathletes. Now, don't model every area of their life, because they might be an alcoholic, but they're an amazing triathlete and they eat really well and they do all the right things on the course and they do all the right things working out, but they have a really bad habit. I don't mean copy everything in their life. And hopefully your listeners know what I'm talking about here. But model them in the areas of their life that they are successful, that you want to have the same success. That's what I mean. So that was a little bit of a tangent there to give you some value on what to do if you fall into that second category of knowing what you want, but not knowing how to get it. Okay. Up-level your network.
Because I want to add there is that,
yeah,
everyone is different. So everyone's got a different methodology. There's like thousands of strategies for the same thing that you want. However, you want to take the good bits that you want, or that you find that fit your flow, like you said, or fit your lifestyle or the way that you like to work. And you're just taking little bits from different people, and maybe just packaging it into your own. But I think essentially you have to find what works for you. But then it's like these days, it's not much that you can really reinvent the wheel, but it's like whatever that you've thought about or want to do is probably already being done. But then it's more about, well, how do you innovate? Like based on those ideas, based on those role models in your own way.
Yeah, absolutely, Pauline. And I also want to underscore something you kind of pointed to in that conversation. And that is that, like, if somebody wants to become, let's just say, a real estate investor, and you go out and you see one of those infomercials that says, hey, we're flipping houses and we're doing it, we're millionaires, and they might be really successful. But what I like people to do is to go inward first and really discover your authentic self, discover your personality, discover what lights you up. What are your motivations? What are your values, right? What are the things that make you tick at a cellular level? Like down to the base unit of measure of awareness of who you are. Because what you might find is you don't actually want to become a fix and flipper, if you will, which is what that person does. You just want the end result, which is you want to be in real estate, you want to have time flexibility, and you want to make a certain amount of money. Well, there might be a different strategy inside of real estate that is more aligned and more congruent with your personality type and your skill set and your values, that is not a fix and flipper. Don't just look at the result and say, oh, I want that exact path because I want that result. No, you might want that result, but think about the path there, make it more customized to who you truly are, because that's where you're going to really have success. That's why so many people sign up for that program. And there's a lot of reasons why they might not succeed. But one of the main reasons is it's not designed for them. It's designed for people similar to the person who had success. There might be a different pathway that if you had more awareness of what's important to you and how you tick and your values and your personality and everything we talked about, there might be a different pathway to that same result as a successful real estate investor that's more aligned to your natural gifts and talents, your flow, that will have much more ease. Because when you're in the flow, there's a sense of ease. It's not easy, but there's a sense of ease and grace. And you've probably experienced this in your life where things just start to fall into place. And it's almost like you create momentum and things are going your way. Well, that's because you're in the flow. So that's what we want to find is our flow. So,
and I want to add something there as well.
Yeah,
if
please.
you want to know the fastest way to burnout, then you go and chase the things that you think, those end results, and do the strategies. And if they don't work for you, that's probably where you're going to end up in the burnout, when you're not in your flow, because it's one or the other way.
Absolutely. And that can lead us to the third place where a lot of people are. So the first place is everybody believes that anything's possible, but we can get a little beat up sometimes and start to wonder if that's true, but everything's possible. The first place people are is they don't know what they want. Second place is they know what they want, but they don't know how to get it. The third place is the one that hurts me most and is near and dear to my heart, because I've experienced this. I've experienced all three of these, but I've really experienced this third one. And that is, you know what you want. You even know how to get it, but you don't believe it's actually possible for you. It's possible for other people, but you don't believe it's possible for you. And that is where our limiting beliefs creep in. That's where our prior failures or challenges in life have made us think something about ourselves and believe something about ourselves that has distorted what truly is possible for us. Because a belief is really just a thought that you continually think and say to yourself. That's all a belief is. It's just a thought or something that you continually say to yourself, and it's a belief, becomes a belief. But a lot of times they're not actually true, right? They're not actually true. So most people will find themselves in one of those three places. Even the people that are successful out there have limiting beliefs that stop them from truly reaching their full potential, from truly being able to reach their true impact and their purpose in life. And that is something I went through and was able to luckily discover my purpose along the way. And I'd love to get back to, in a moment, flow, and finish that conversation, because there's one more thing I want to share on that. But anything you wanted to add
before we move on? Really powerful
please.
point is that I also believe that at each level, like as soon as you kind of level up or get into some kind of new situation, environment, goal or flow, the limiting beliefs, I think that they're always there. Your mind is always going to have thoughts, whether you perceive them to be negative or positive, but it's like managing that. And I think what happens is that the process you mentioned about the black sheep, that's really going to help out, because then you can really like look at and prove for yourself, are these beliefs or are these thoughts, are they actually true? Or am I just having one of those days, or one of those moments?
Right.
Because I think that's a huge obstacle, whichever, goal or passion or level that you're at in life, there's always going to be some new thoughts, because something, if you've never done something before, you may have certain beliefs about that.
Yeah, I even work with really successful people that want to get their message out there to grow their impact and their income. And so they're already really successful. On the surface, you'd be like, well, why would that person ever have challenges? Well, everybody has what most people call imposter syndrome, where no matter what level you're at, a lot of us feel that we're not worthy of being at that level or of going to the next level. Even really successful people that you think have it all figured out they also have that same imposter syndrome. So you're not alone if you're just getting started or you're intermediate entrepreneur, if you will, and you have that feeling of maybe not being worthy or not being enough. That is one of the most common limiting beliefs on the planet. On the planet. And I want to illustrate a little bit here, if you don't mind, about how limiting beliefs are formed. I think that might give some of us some power. Okay, cool. So when we're little kids, we have what I like to call little kid confidence. Little kid confidence. And if you can picture this, I see, one time I was driving and I was going by this park, and I literally see this little kid, and he just strips down and he just like runs out into the field like, I'm going streaking, like total 100% full self-expression, just absolute confidence, just going for it, right? And I'm not suggesting to do that. I'm just saying little kid confidence, right? How about this other little girl I saw 4 years ago on an aircraft? I was on the way to a speaking engagement, and she just breaks out into song, like singing at the top of her lungs, like she is the next, I don't know, we have America's Got Talent. I don't know if you have Australia's Got Talent or America's, whatever, that, you know, one of those shows, American Idol, Australian Idol. I don't know what the show is down there, but or around the world where you're listening. But just picture that, totally singing with full 100% self-expression. Little kid confidence, right? We all can relate to that. We all either have kids or we've been kids, right? So we know. And then something happens, and this happens for everybody. Remember, we were talking about psychology, right? We're talking about limiting beliefs. How are they formed? Well, what happens is something will happen in our lives, and it could be a totally benign happenstance, like a total normal thing that happens. Just something normal happens, like just something normal. Or it could be an actual tragic event in your life, right? It could be somewhere in between. The bottom line is that thing happens. And as little kids, the way our brain works is as it develops, we have to delete, distort, and compartmentalize and generalize information as it comes into our brain. I'm going to get really deep for a second. I'm going to pull right back out in a sec here so it gets not too deep. But ultimately, our brains receive billions and billions of bits of information every day. Every day, like billions of bits of information. So much more is going on all around us. We're getting into a little bit of quantum physics here. And I'm certainly not an expert in quantum physics, but I've watched a lot of documentaries and read a lot of books and talked to a lot of people and had a lot of experiences myself to know this to be true, that there are so many things happening all around us at any given moment, but we can only see a very, very, very small percentage of what's actually happening, all the occurrences happening all around us. Now, I know that can sound a little mind-blowing. Watch the movie What the Bleep. It'll really blow your mind if you haven't watched that. It's called What the Bleep. And that's what you're going to say when you start to learn this stuff is what the bleep. Holy cow. So ultimately, what our brain has to do so that we do not go crazy, because we can't handle billions and billions of bits of information, the physiology of how our brain has evolved and how it's developed is we have to delete out certain scenario of things that are happening all around us. We have to distort and we have to generalize in order to make sense of the world. Otherwise, there'll be too much information coming through our little, if you picture a little funnel, too much coming into that funnel. So what happens as little kids is when we touch a stove or something really hot, our brain will file that away. Okay, things like that look like that are hot. So that next time we see that thing, we don't even need to spend the mental energy to process that. It just, boom, it accesses the archive, says it's hot, don't touch it. It all happens in our unconscious brain. Okay, I know I'm getting deep here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a protection. It's the way to protect. It's exactly what it is. That's great. Because we evolved from literally being chased by saber-toothed tigers, right? So our biology, this is how it all works. So what happens is, go back to being a little kid. Something happens. And our brain, this is how limiting beliefs are formed. The one I just shared is a positive thing. That's hot, don't touch it. Okay, good to know. But other things can happen and we file it away unconsciously in our unconscious brain, but we misfile it. We misfile it as the world's not safe, or I'm not safe, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, right? Or it's not fair. These are the things that get filed away as a meaning. All we are meaning-making machines. So something happens and our brain makes it mean something. Something happens, the brain makes it mean something and files it away. And that's how we create. If you think about a totally fresh brain, that's how we start to create all of our belief structure that ultimately is primarily formed by the age of 8. And then we literally go through the rest of our lives collecting evidence to prove that that is true. All those things that we collected. We don't do this consciously. That's just what makes the world, that's what's so in the world for the rest of our lives. We go through the rest of our lives collecting evidence to make that true. Because if that's not true, then our whole makeup of the world, our whole construct of how we see the world is like shattered. And that's what happens when things like 2008 happen. That's what happens when things like COVID happen, is things start to break down, not only in the outward world, the financial systems, the educational systems, but in our brain systems, in other words, our beliefs start to be tested. And we start to become aware, like, wait a minute, maybe that isn't true. Maybe that, holy crap, I didn't even know I believe that. And that's when our unconscious starts to come to our conscious brain. And we start to realize, wait a minute, I actually have a choice in whether that's true or not. And that's called a breakthrough, right? That's what personal development is all about, is finding those blind spots that we can't currently see. And once we see them, they can't be unseen. And now, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, these beliefs become a lens. Think of it like a lens, like a rose-colored lens through which we see the entire world. And everything we see is filtered through this lens. And that's why we only see what our brain tells us to see. It's all unconscious. That's why two people can see the same exact thing happen right in front of them. And one person can say, wow, what a tragedy. And the other person says, wow, what an opportunity. It's all based on the lens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's filtered on many levels, as you said.
Totally.
Because otherwise our brain can't cope with, there's like so much information coming through. So it just goes throughout your whole life experience, you building different filters, and then the information flows through in certain degrees.
Yes. So the bottom line is, if that was too deep for anyone out there, if you are in a spot where you're challenged, you're struggling, just know that we all have limiting beliefs. And if you can just start to talk to people that are in the space that you want to go, that are having success, perhaps they might have some of those limiting beliefs, but perhaps they've already broken through them because they've gotten to the other side, and start to listen to some of the things that not only you say to yourself, because that's a great way to start to hear what your limiting beliefs might be. Listen to the things you say when you stub your toe, or you're challenged, or you're frustrated. I used to say, I'm so stupid. This is so stupid. I have this limiting belief that I'm stupid, that I'm not good enough and I'm stupid. It's so freaking not true. I got like a 4.0 in grad school, and I'm freaking smart. I'm really smart, right? So I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that belief is dumb. That belief is stupid, right? Start to listen to the words you say. And surround yourself with other people that don't have.
That's awesome. It's like a crash course in NLP. But if anyone's more interested in learning more and getting deeper into this, what Clinton's talking about, definitely take a course in one of those. It would literally change your life and blow your beliefs out the window. But one of the things that I'm really curious about, when, and you mentioned beautifully in terms of, from what you were saying with beliefs, is really about being conscious. It's like even through the steps that you were talking about, where people are in 3 different stages, if anything is possible, they don't know what they want, they don't know how. It's really about moving their consciousness. As soon as you are able to be aware of where your blind spots are, or aware of what you have, what you don't have, just being aware of yourself, because I think it literally comes down to that. The more that you are aware, the more that then you have the choice to then choose, well, which path do you go forward, and what decisions do you make as well.
100%. Present awareness. That's why the practices, the black sheep habits, for example, are great to create a sense of mindfulness for you, and a habit of mindfulness, right? Habits aren't sexy, but they're the key to success. And it's the one thing that, if you look at the people in your life that have the most success, or are the happiest, because success doesn't always mean financial, it could be health, it could be wealth, et cetera, et cetera. They just have different habits. They have habitual ways of being. It's another way of saying habits, habitual ways of being on a regular basis, that, again, it's not sexy, but when they add up, a habitual way of being that you do consistently. Because consistent effort, consistent action is the only thing that ever changes anything. Consistently doing things differently, right? So that's the main thing that sets apart those people that have what it is that you want, that are being the kind of person you want to become, and us. It's just the habitual ways of being.
I have
And it
one
creates
really
mindfulness.
burning question about this
Yes,
is going to come
please.
out of the blue. But black sheep habits, what is that name? Like, where did you get that from?
Okay, so black sheep, if you think about black sheep, they kind of stand out from the herd. Most sheep are white. So a black sheep kind of stands out. They're willing, when you're a black sheep, you're willing to do the things that maybe aren't as popular, like closing your eyes when you're sitting in line. I was going to say at the bank, but nobody goes to the bank anymore, right? Wherever you need to sit in line, right? Closing your eyes and just not worrying about what other people are going to think of you, right? That's being a black sheep, doing things that are maybe, again, now they're becoming more and more popular in the mainstream, but in a lot of circles, if you talk about visualization, they're going to tell you you're crazy. But if you actually Google it and research it, you'll find there's actually science. It's not just like crazy quantum physics, which is also science, by the way, but there's like science that supports all this. And there's also millions of the most successful people on the planet that utilize it effectively to create their lives and create exactly what they want in their life.
Yeah.
So
and this
it
is
works.
where we enter into the world of like energy, or spirituality, whatever people like to call it, in that, you know, you're really able to really access different states of consciousness or infinite possibilities, as some people might refer to. But because you're able to tap into different energy, different emotions, and emotions are also energy as well. And they allow you to like flow through life in or vibrate in certain ways. So yeah, that's a whole different conversation. But there's, you know, vibration is also, I think, comes down to all the energy side of things, because everything is energy.
Pauline, you just totally had a great segue into finishing my flow story from before. So you talked about energy, and I don't want to freak people out. Just stay with us, put your seatbelt on. It's going to get really good here in a second. So if you are in a challenging spot, right? Or even if you're in a great spot, but you want to get to that next level of alignment and congruence and success and happiness and fulfillment on your journey, then listen to this. Okay. So when I was in a really challenging time back in 2008, 2009, 2010, I told you the story of, you know, where I was at, and I found myself really wanting to have more flow in my life. And what I did is I looked for opportunities, first of all, to deepen my awareness of what flow was and how and what that looked like for me, because what it looks like for me is different than what it looks like for you and different what it looks like from some of your listeners. So as we discover more about what that looks like, now I can start to look at what are normal things in my life that I can do that actually put me in a state of flow, right? Where I actually feel great, where there's a sense of ease. And there's just this feeling of grace in my life, where things are creating momentum and they're fun and I'm good at them and I'm adding a lot of value, even if they're not directly related to the problem you're trying to solve, which was I was trying to create a business. I was trying to come up with what's next, what's new after I just had this big failure. But what I did is, just to give an example, I knew that being out with people and shaking hands, kissing babies, giving high fives, talking to people, being in the moment, right? Just like we are right now, just having a conversation and accessing what is natural to me when you ask me a question, I knew that that put me in a state of flow. So I literally volunteered at my spiritual center that I go to, and I was the greeter. And I literally just volunteered to just be the greeter at the door. People walk in and I would just be the one that was able to say, hey, how you doing? Come on in, blah, blah, blah. Because I knew that put me in a state of joy. Now, did that directly bring me to my next job or my next business? No. But what it does, when you put yourself in states of joy, and it could be something totally different, it could be petting your cat, puts you in a state of joy where you're just totally present in the moment and you feel really good. What that does is it raises your vibration, which is what Pauline just referenced. It raises your vibration. And whether you know this or believe this or not, if you Google it and do more research on it and study it, you'll find that your vibration actually is very important. We tend to attract things in our lives that are vibrating at the same level or higher. So we start to do more and more things, put ourselves in the way of flow. so that we start to vibrate at a higher vibration. And it's not like things magically happen, but there is kind of a miraculous experience of what happens in that we start to notice new things that we didn't notice before. Remember, we talked about the lens. We talked about how there's billions of bits of information, all these things happening all around us, and you don't see them because the lens that you have. When you start doing things that put you in flow, your lens starts to change. You start to have new insights, new awarenesses, new conversations start to occur where they maybe already were there, but you just didn't notice them as much before. You didn't notice the importance of them before. You start to do that when you put yourself in states of flow. So that's something anyone can do literally today. Find things that make you feel good. Do a T close on your paper. On the left, say, what are things that put you in flow in your life? Put on the right, what are the things that take you out of flow? Stop doing the things that take you out of flow as best you can. Start doing more of the things that put you in flow and see what happens.
So powerful. One thing there, when you mentioned about you start to notice different things when you're in a new vibration.
Yeah.
Is it like, would you say that it's transferable? Because like if you are filling yourself up with feelings of joy and then you're able to move through move your way around with that new sensation, that then that is like almost like a magnet, or like that is transferring that energy into attracting or having other opportunities because you are being that in that, like when you say, being in flow, is that sort of where people can understand how that transfers into different opportunities for them?
The short answer is yes. The long answer is way longer than this conversation really would allow for. And it'll get really deep and heady. And I'm also not the foremost expert in that space, but I would say yes. When you start vibrating at a certain level, you will definitely start to attract other things. But it's to take it more to a pragmatic approach, a scientific approach. Like if you just think about what I just shared, when you start vibrating at a higher level, you're going to change the lens through which you see the entire world. So it's not like anything changed in the world necessarily. It's that you changed and that you can now see things that were already there in the past. You just didn't notice them. It's kind of like it's called the reticular activator system in your brain. Again, not to get too heady, but when you buy a red car, a little sports car, you're like, oh, I'm going to be so awesome. I got this new car. And then you notice that every person and their mother has the same car. You see it everywhere, where before you never noticed it. You just didn't notice it because it wasn't in your awareness. That's really more like, from a more pragmatic approach, what we're doing is we're just shifting our awareness so that now we feel differently, which means we start to see new things. We start to see new things that were already there. We just didn't see them before because we had a different lens on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect.
And that then creates momentum because you start to create synchronicities, or some might say coincidences, where you start thinking of something really intently and all of a sudden that person calls you, or all of a sudden you start to see that, like the little red car, all around you. And then from seeing that, as long as you have courage to take action in spite of fear, when those little clues show up, you will find that magic and freaking miracles will happen in your life when you have the courage to step into those little clues that keep showing up. In fact, I have this amazing formula that perhaps I'll leave people with, or I'll share it now, and you can ask me any other questions you want. But that is a formula for creating magic and miracles in your life. And it goes like this: inspiration, right? That's why I'm so huge on discovering what lights you up, discover your flow, discover what you're inspired by, right? Inspiration plus faith and belief. And I don't mean like religious faith or even spiritual faith. Oh, that'll definitely help you as well. I just mean that like little kid confidence, like faith, like it's already done. There's not even a chance that it could ever not happen. Because if you can see it and you believe it, it definitely can happen. It's proof that it's possible for it to happen. So you just have to have the belief system that it's going to happen, and the faith that it's already done. All you need to do then is finish the formula, which is action. So inspiration plus belief and faith plus action equals magic and miracles in your life. Test me on that. Go and do that. Have the courage to follow your inspiration. And I'm telling you what, you will have magic and miracles open up in your life.
Yeah, I really get that. And I like that, because a lot of that comes down to whatever that you want is firstly achieved in your mind. So I think it comes back to the visualization, or it comes back to you create it first in your mind, and then the action is what actually you create in reality to make that happen in real life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's beautiful is when you create it in your mind first, like you just said, the natural actions will arise. They will arise at the right time because you've already kind of told your brain, like, this is happening, and you'll start to see the right actions to take when it's the right time to take them. You don't need to figure out the how. That's the worst thing to do, to try to figure out every single step. Just focus on that end vision, stay courageous, stay in action, stay inspired, keep surrounding yourself with amazing people that can help you, that are already there, that are 10 steps ahead of you, that can lead you on the path. And if you just keep having the courage to take action, and you stay believing that it's possible, and that it's possible for you, and have faith that it's already done, man, that formula right there can change your life.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
and once
change
you
your
create
life.
it in your mind, very important point that you've also mentioned is that we need to attach the emotions, the feelings towards that as well, so that we
Yes.
can actually vibrate in flow, and then be able to take the actions to really have that,
100%.
create it in our own reality.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
This has been great. I've learned so much, and I'm sure that everyone has as well. Now, in terms of where you are at the moment, I know that we spoke about this at the very beginning, but let's go into, life. How has life changed since knowing all of this, and, from where you were to where you are now?
So it definitely has not gotten easier. And I don't want to scare people when I say that, but I also don't want to fluff people up and think that, oh yeah, my life's perfect. No, when you become conscious, when you become aware of all of these sort of principles of life, really, these are kind of like life principles that we're talking about, and how the most fulfilled people on the planet live is doing the things that we're talking about today in this conversation, right? But when we start to discover that, life doesn't become easier. It actually, there are opportunities for ease in your life, but it can sometimes become harder in that you have to now be responsible for, I know what's possible. I know the process. It's not always going to be easy to be courageous, but if I want that end result, I want to live a fulfilled life, like truly fulfilled, and don't wake up, or don't, end up on your deathbed, when you're 90 years old or 100 years old saying, I wish I had the courage to follow my dreams. If you want to not have that happen to you, and you want to live a truly fulfilled life, then yeah, it takes courage, man. And courage is not always easy. It's not always easy to do the things that we're talking about right now, but it's so worth it. It's so freaking worth it. So how has my life changed? Well, I want to share a quick story about people come up to me when I speak, and even in different countries all around the world. I share my speech, Reigniting the Human Spirit, and they get into this conversation, and they come up to me at the end and they say, Clinton, how do I find my purpose? And I say something that kind of stops them in their tracks. I say, if you're looking for your purpose, stop. It'll be waiting for you when you start doing the things that you love, right? If you're looking for your purpose, if you're like out there looking for it, stop, because it will be revealed to you. It will be waiting right there for you when you just start doing the things that you love, when you start doing things that put you in flow, as I mentioned. When you start putting yourself in flow, and you start utilizing the success formula I just gave to create magic and miracles in your life, where you're inspired and you have belief and faith, and you surround yourself with amazing people that support that belief and faith, and then you just take action, and you have the courage to keep taking action, man, your purpose will be revealed to you along the way. Stop looking for it. It will be naturally revealed to you. And I like to say this as well, Pauline, that I believe we all have the same purpose. I believe we all have the same purpose. We all have different wrappers. They all look a little different, but they're all, in my opinion, this is my opinion only, that they're the same purpose. And that is that we have the purpose to be in service to other people. Be in service to others, not just about us being happy. It's not just about us making money. It's not just about us making an impact. It's about us, really is about us making an impact, making an impact to others. So adding value to other people, being in service to others, but do it inside of your greatest gift, inside of your flow, right? when you're inside of your flow, that thing that lights you up, where you add the most value, where time flies by, where you are so like at the cross section of what you love with what you do best, you're going to add the most value to the marketplace, to yourself, to the world, to your family, to your friends, to your partners, your business, etc. So be that inside of your greatest gift, and then find ways to do that in service to as many people as you can. If that's 10 people, great. If that's 2 people, great. If that's 1 million people, great. When you do that, that's your freaking purpose. And that might look differently to different people, but ultimately that's the principle of it, in my opinion. That's the principle of what everybody's purpose is to be in service to others inside of our greatest gifts. So how has my life changed since starting to know these things? Well, I'm at a really interesting place in my life, Pauline. I started to share this previously, where some people might call me crazy. I've been speaking for the last probably 5 years or so professionally all around the world. And I've had a lot of success as a speaker in a short period of time. And I've been speaking a lot longer than that. That's probably why I've had as much success as I've had. And I've put in the hours, put in the time, and I've hired the coaches. And then I started coaching other people how to do this as well, how to speak, how to be entrepreneurs who speak and get their message out to the world 2 or 3 years ago. And some would call me crazy to stop doing that. And I'm not completely stopping. I still have some one-on-one clients and I still have my mastermind, but I'm not doing my Ignite program anymore, my world-class speaker Ignite program, which has gotten tremendous results from people all around the world. And it's because I am following my own message. I am following the little white rabbit, the little clues that are showing up for me. And I'm having the courage to take a course correction, even when I'm at the pinnacle of my success in this space, to follow something that lights me up even more. And that, it sounds crazy to say, but that is pickleball. That is this sport. It's the fastest growing sport in the US. It's one of the fastest growing sports on the planet. And it totally lights me up. I found this sport. It's like tennis and ping pong had a baby, and it's a really cool baby. Like I said before, it's played with a hard paddle and a wiffle ball, kind of plastic ball on a like 1/3 the size of a tennis court with 2-on-2. It's a ton of fun. It's way easy to learn. And I learned it during COVID. And it made such a massive impact on my life. It sounds goofy, but when you play it, you'll get what I'm saying. Because it's been proven, this sport has been proven to increase confidence and mental performance. And there's a lot of reasons why, but it's really, really easy to learn how to play. And that's probably why it produces confidence and the endorphins that come with that confidence building for people that, even if you've never played a sport. And as you know, I'm an inspirational speaker that focuses on mindset and confidence and courage. So of course, I'm going to love a sport that gives not only me that, but it allows me to show other people this amazing sport that's just a tool to give you more confidence. It's kind of like becoming a world-class speaker. I help people do that. It gives them more confidence. So of course I love the sport for that reason. And the mental and emotional and physical benefits of it, it's totally transformed and changed my life. So how has this changed my world since knowing all these principles? Well, I'm doing things like totally changing my career. This is probably the 3rd time I've done this in my life, but it's because I'm following that little white rabbit. I'm trusting my intuition. I'm trusting spirit, or whatever you believe in, that's giving me these clues, because I'm staying inspired. I'm staying in belief that it's possible. I'm staying in faith that it's already done, even though I don't know what the hell it looks like yet. I'm just focusing on the end result, how I want to feel in that end result. And I'm having the courage to take action. And again, at this current time of recording, I don't know what's going to happen in the pickleball space. I just know it's a massive booming industry. I'm totally drawn to it. I have this calling to make a difference and an impact using all my skill sets that I already have, but inside of the world of this amazing sport, to help uplift humanity. And that is the direction I'm going. So that is how my life has sort of shifted and changed. And I've also taken the massive leap of faith of buying a 36-foot motorhome, renting out my house, uprooting my wife and I and her business and my business, and traveling all around the United States to live the life of adventure and go on this exploration, because that is what I was called to do. I don't know why. I don't have a logical reason why. I just felt it. I trusted my intuition, and I had the courage to take action. And again, magic and miracles are opening up on this process as well. So hopefully you can see that I'm living the message. I'm living the formulas I'm giving you. This is an example of me doing that in my life. And it's not easy. It's freaking scary, but it's totally worth it. Growth is never, ever, 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 ever comfortable, but it's always worth it. It's always worth it.
That's so amazing that you've really just following that inner calling or those messages, I think, and trusting that is just so powerful. I mean, if anyone takes anything out of this conversation, I think it's like really following that intuition and, you know, really following the energy and how you feel about things. So yeah, definitely courageous. And, you know, it's an exciting journey ahead for you to continue.
100%.
So I don't even have to, you know, we know where you're at the moment with that transition. I want to end this conversation because it's been so valuable so far and jam-packed with wisdom. I want to ask you two questions. And that is, the first one is, at this stage of your life, what does fulfillment mean to you?
At this stage of my life, fulfillment to me is, it's about feeling empowered to live a life that I love and to make an impact in other people's lives. And just you isolated what I said earlier, which I think is the most important. It's being in that process of trusting your intuition. There's this great book called The Surrender Experiment by, just Google it. I don't remember his name, but it's an amazing book about this guy's life. Michael Singer. And he literally had a multi-gazillion dollar tech company. And the things that he did to not only build that with total like effortless ease and grace, while also being this masterful yogi, okay, and hugely into meditation and visualization. It's an amazing story of living what he calls the surrender experiment. And fulfillment to me is what my wife and I are doing right now, where we are totally surrendering. And I don't want that to come across the wrong way. You got to read the book to know what I'm talking about. But so we're on the same page. What I mean is we're surrendering to that intuition, to spirit or God or whatever you all believe in, doesn't really matter. Whatever it is that drives you and calls you into action and that sort of directs you spiritually, if you will. We're following that. And we're doing it not with reckless abandon, right? But some might say renting out your house, buying an RV, stopping your business and just living in an RV and trying to do that all over the place. And then stopping your business of speaking and coaching to do something in the pickleball world, not even knowing what it is yet, not even knowing how I'm going to make money doing that. But that's the surrender experiment, is trust. You said the word, trust. It's have the clarity, using the black sheep habits to get the clarity that we talked about earlier. And once you have that, once you start getting signs, you start getting the intuition, man, you just got to have the courage to trust that is the path and just to keep taking those action steps. So to fulfillment is not like fat, rich, and happy, and you're not doing anything and life is easy. No, it's a process. It's a lifelong process. That's what I believe fulfillment is, a lifelong process of continually trusting and surrendering and taking courageous action. That's what fulfillment is for me at this point in my life.
Beautiful. Yeah. And something came to mind as well. Well, I'm just going to say it while you were talking, is that it's almost like, you know, you're here for an adventure, right? Like you don't know what's around the corner. And for you, it's almost like as if you're following, there's like breadcrumbs. It might have been some story somewhere, but like you're following that next breadcrumb. And when one thing, you know, when you feel like you're ready or to surrender, as you say, and maybe the current situation or the work or whatever that you're in at the moment isn't challenging or fulfilling, or you feel like, hey, it's ready, that breadcrumb has presented itself, and that, you know, it is the divine timing or whatever it is, and it's calling to you, then you go for it. Like, you know, and it's courageous, because when you follow it, you really don't know where the next adventure is. And I think that's the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, that's something that just came up right then. So
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
love that.
following all the breadcrumbs of your life.
I love that. And one of my students just told me the other day something that really, it was a great analogy. He said that when you go to a grocery store, for example, and you walk up to the door and you have the trust, those doors are closed. You have the trust that those doors are going to open. They always open. The automatic doors, they always open. If you just step through and into it, they always open. So that will happen the more that we do that in our lives, the more that we trust that the doors will open. We just take the steps, take the steps and stay clear, stay confident that you are believing that it's still possible and that you have faith that it's already done.
Yeah, great. And lastly, imagine that you have followed all the breadcrumbs. I'm going to just stick with that, into into all the next journeys and adventures that you ever have in this lifetime. But one day, after you ventured all around with the RV and whatever other ventures that you go on and create within this lifetime, it becomes your last day on earth. If it was, what would be the message that you would want to leave us with or send everyone?
It's a 6-word story. Think big, say yes, and take action. I feel that if we continually think bigger than we currently are thinking, because our limiting beliefs are always going to keep our thinking smaller than it should be. I don't like the word should, smaller than it can be, right? Think big and then say yes. When opportunities arise, say yes, and then take action. Anything is possible. Truly anything is possible when we think big, say yes, and take action.
Thank you for this conversation, Clinton. It's been massively inspiring.
Absolutely. If people want to follow our journey online, they can follow us at Club Freedom Live on Instagram and on Facebook. We've got a fun little free Facebook group as well at Club Freedom Live. And if you want to follow along what we're up to around the world, my wife and I, that's how you can find out more about us. And then my website is clintonyoung.com. If anybody wants to get connected with me there about speaking, me speaking for your group, or coaching with me, you can go through clintonyoung.com. Thank you so much, Pauline, for your time and your leadership in the world of podcasting. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.